Sean Campus, what's going on this morning? I hope everybody's doing well. This on Sunday, I talked about this that trying to make a decision or deciding whether you're going to stay or leave or stay or leave the relationship after infidelity. Like what are some things to kind of look at and consider? And so, based on the responses and the questions that I got. Um, I feel like there's a reason for us to talk about deciding to stay after infidelity. And so, what happens if you decide, look, I am staying. I'm not going to leave. I think there's a couple of things that go into that decision, um, and it's not really knocking anybody. It's just understanding the scenario. And so, for some people, like and I want to turn it into this. It might not be this, but I want to turn it into this. For some people, um, it's basically the decision to stay is all about strength and getting better and being focused on um, trying to be in a different place in your own life, trying to create a relationship that's healthy and useful and doing the things that relationships are supposed to do for us in our life. And so for some people, it's about that. It's about understanding um, that we are imperfect and bigger than that we just make mistakes is that we don't take care of all the things that we need to not make mistakes. And so, I think a lot for a lot of people that becomes a reason, and that's a useful way of doing it. For other people, like to be honest, it's a sense of security. It's not having the confidence to leave the relationship. It's um, a fear for like how other people will see you. It's sometimes you're it's not about what's on the inside for you. A lot of times about what's on the outside. So it might be a scenario where the infidelity is made to feel like it's your fault, or you may feel like it's your fault. So you say like, it's my fault, so I'm going to stay. And any of those reasons, there could be more. And any of those reasons, we want to get to a point where it's the first piece. The first piece that I talked about is like it. It needs to be a moment of strength. And I know like it's not really a time of strength. It's a time of weakness. It's time of hurt. It's time of grief. It's time of pain. And so, it makes it difficult to say like it needs to be a time of strength. But if you think about it like that, like this is a time of strength, this is an opportunity for me to get better. This opportunity for me to better my relationship. And we'll for today, just because of time that we could spend instead of us splitting up both sides um, of like whether you are the victim of the infidelity or the one who perpetrated the infidelity. We'll just say as kind of as a couple, like what needs to be looked at. And so, yeah, the first thing is let's make the decision. Let's move our decision making based on the idea that we're trying to build something else, right? So if it's those other reasons, this is a reason that we would do it that way. If it was those other reasons that are more about us trying to like um, us trying to escape a feeling or a scenario, if it was those reasons, then we probably won't work on all the things that we have to in the relationship, and we continue to kind of perpetuate the same kind of behaviors that were probably in our relationship before. And so we got to move forward on that, right? So if we decide that we're going to stay together and that is the case, then I need to really be looking at moving this way as a strength. So the first thing that I think will look at after we make that decision is the idea of a decision. When you make this decision, um, don't just put your don't just put your finger in the water, so to speak, to test it. Like make this decision and let's take everything else out of the equation, right? So if you are cheating, if you are cheating, you have to stop doing the cheating, right? Like you can't keep doing that thing. And so it's not a part in, well, I still want to have that as a friend. Like it's not a part in type scenario. The healthiest thing that you can do is stop doing what you've done before. The other stop is like, this is the decision that we're making as a couple. If we're making this decision to stay together, these are the concepts that we need. These are the things that we need to be doing, and we're going to be moving together doing those things. And so you're taking out other things. You're taking out the possibility of leaving. You're taking out the possibility of keeping friendships that aren't healthy for your relationship. You're taking out all of those scenarios because you are making a decision to be married. And so that's a really first key. The second thing is um, we need to be willing to have conversations. And so usually what happens in relationships where there's infidelity, people will try to say that everything was perfect or everything was good, but there's a lot of things that when we look at it that actually come up and we can say like, man, that was missing in my marriage, right? Like, so what are those things? And I think this would be a good way to do it. As a couple, sit down and make a list of all the things in your relationship that should have been happening or could have been happening, and turn that list into what you will start doing. And on an individual basis, you know, as a couple, each person will have their things that they weren't doing in the relationship. And so you need to know from yourself as an individual, like, what kept me from doing those things, right? What kept me from, as a husband, having a conversation with my wife and sharing different things? What kept me from, as a wife, what kept me from um, um, having certain kind of conversations or sharing needs that I needed to have met? Like, what kept me from those things? Because I need to be able to dissect that. And then after we make that list, and we know what kept us from doing those things, or we start knowing, we want to start sharing that hardship with each other. Okay. So already we're starting to build on developing a connection that means that we're actually moving back together. Okay. So that would be the second thing. The third thing is that we want to make sure um, we start spending a different kind of time together, right? So our our time that we maybe we were, and again, you can go back and look at like what were our timelines like what were we doing that time wise wasn't useful to our relationship, right? And it may have been convenient, but it wasn't necessarily useful to our relationship. So we want to look at that and try to say, okay, these are the things that I need to be able to do to switch things over, right? These are the timelines and the interactions that I need to be able to do. All right. So if we can do the time, the third thing that I think is really important is we don't want to be insensitive to the hurt that's in the relationship. We want to be really sensitive to it. And there's a difference between being sensitive and trying to fix it. So trying to fix it would be, um, man, I need to make sure that my partner feels better, right? We can't make anybody feel better. The hurt is the hurt. Um, the grief is the grief, right? All those things are in there. We can't make somebody feel better, but we can support somebody and do things that start restructuring a different kind of experience. And so we want to try to do that part of it, right? So how do we do that? Well, in our mind, we need to am flip over the thoughts of, am I doing the best I can do as a person, right? As a wife, am I doing the best things I can do to be able to respect my husband and create a supportive relationship? As a husband, am I doing the best that I can do to love my wife so that she can recognize and feel that scenario and feel supported and secure? Am I doing those things, right? So um, if we're able to switch that over, we start uh, grooving a new way of being inside of the relationship, and that's going to be key for us to move on something new. Okay, I think with those three pieces, you guys have an excellent starting point for creating a different kind of relationship, for moving through the pain and the grief of infidelity. The one thing I didn't mention, which I think is huge, uh, is make sure you have some kind of coach, something that you're following, that has proven methods or that knows, maybe counseling, uh, but do a search. Make sure as a couple you guys are focused on doing a search that will make you better. All right, you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon. Bye now.